Sarah Newman, who lives in Jerusalem, is a woman with a mission.
Hi, I'm glad you got here. How are you? I was just going through your order. You want to take a look? Yes, please.
In her typically efficient way, she's planning her son's wedding well ahead of schedule. Sarah, who grew up in Melbourne, intends to give her son Gidon a day to remember, because plaguing her is a day she can't forget. A month ago, on May the 11th, her youngest boy Eitan was killed.
Sometime during the 7-day mourning period after the funeral, I think I realized he's just not going to be coming home for weekends anymore. And I miss him more than I can say, you know. It's like, I lost my father and I miss my father, but this is different. This is not natural. You know, we bury our parents. We shouldn't bury our children.
Eitan was 21, a soldier in an elite Israeli army unit. He was traveling in an armored personnel carrier when it struck a bomb placed by Palestinian fighters. Eitan and 5 others died instantly. The Palestinians displayed the soldiers' remains as trophies.
I would cry, except that I have no tears left. There are no tears left.
Was he a corporal?
Sarah Newman is convinced her son died defending Israel. But he was only one of 13 soldiers killed in Gaza in the bloody month of May. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, under pressure from the United States, judges the military sacrifice and the political pain of staying on too high. He plans to force Israelis from 21 Gaza settlements by the end of next year, but the withdrawal won't be total. Israeli soldiers will stay on all of Gaza's borders. 70% of Israelis support the withdrawal, but Israel's coalition government is splintering. It's a big political risk.
Impoverished neighborhoods like this are currently the focus of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israelis say it's about security. The Palestinians say it's about land, occupied land. Gaza is home to more than 1 million Palestinians, but 40% of that land is occupied by 7,500 Israeli settlers.
That's pretty...
Bryna Hilberg is one of them. We're travelling on a road built especially for Israelis in a secure enclave known as Gush Katif.
It seems to have attracting power. People want to come here. People want to live here.
This is Gaza's largest Israeli settlement block, home to several thousand settlers. Once they were key supporters of the Prime Minister.
Ariel Sharon was the guy I voted for. And I absolutely never, in my wildest dreams, thought that this would happen.
Do you have a right to be in Gaza?
Of course I have a right to be in Gaza. If I lived in America and I wanted to live in any neighborhood, I could live there. And since the Six-Day War, when the Gaza Strip was taken over by the Israelis, why not? Why not Gaza?
Israel's leaders approved the establishment of settlements to bolster the state's security. Families were given funds to move here. Bryna works as a speech therapist while her husband Sammy grows tomatoes. After 25 years here, their ties to Gaza run deep. Strengthening that bond, her son Yohanan is buried here, a soldier killed in Lebanon 7 years ago. Do you feel betrayed?
Absolutely. I try to do every single thing that a citizen of this country is supposed to do. And then somebody tells me, not good enough, not in the right spot, not what we want.
But the events of last month drove home the price of occupying Gaza. In a society where the army is on a pedestal, the deaths of 13 young soldiers came as a national blow. Yet some Israelis are as adamant as ever.
The army will always need to maintain the ability to go into Gaza. I think Gaza is a hotbed for terrorists. I think the army will always be there.
Foreign correspondent returned to the scene of last month's violence. Israel's focus was to stop weapons being manufactured or smuggled in from Egypt. But in the course of destroying hiding places, more than 300 homes without any military purpose were also destroyed. According to the UN, in a single month, 3,500 people were made homeless. Clinical psychologist Dr. Iyad Siraj has assessed the impact of constant violence on Gazans.
All the children of Gaza have been exposed to the F-16 bombing and Apache bombing. You don't know where they're going to hit, whom they're going to kill. And so the whole place becomes in a state of panic. And panic is given to the children through the behavior of the parents, who themselves are at loss what to do, how to help their children, how to protect them.
Gaza has been occupied by Israel since the 1967 war. But a decade ago, the Oslo Accords enabled Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat to return in triumph. There was to be limited self-rule, leading ultimately to a Palestinian state. More than 200,000 people crammed the streets, heeding Arafat's call for unity. Nafez Shaladan also answered the call. He returned to Gaza 8 years ago after finishing aviation management studies in Qatar.
اجينا على او طلعنا واجينا تغربنا وتشردنا ورجعنا لبلدنا بعد توقيع اتفاقية سلام مع الإسرائيليين على أساس أنه هناك دولتين، دولة فلسطينية ودولة إسرائيلية، ونعيش في سلام.
Nafez Shaladan works at Gaza International Airport. In fact, he helped to plan and build the $90 million facility, a symbol of hope for a future Palestinian state. But no flights have taken off or landed in more than 2 years. The runway was destroyed by the Israeli army after it lost 4 soldiers in a militants' attack.
دخلت الجرافات الإسرائيلية، دمرت المدرج، جرفت المدرج أو الأجزاء اللي أنتم شايفينها هذه من المدرج. بالإف 16 ضربوا مبنى الرادار اللي كان بيعتمد على تشغيل جهاز الهبوط الآلي.
Instead of an independent state, Nafez Shaladan found hope turning to misery and suffering.
I know of so many children who have shown serious signs of disturbances, including post-traumatic stress disorder. And I know that today 36% of the boys of Gaza think that the best thing in life is to die as a martyr.
الله الوكيل ابو العيال 5 شكل يا ابو تعال.
These youngsters sell stickers commemorating Gaza's dead heroes. They're known as martyrs, and last month more than 100 were added to Gaza's ranks. There's also a living hero, not Yasser Arafat in the eyes of 13-year-old Hamid, but Osama bin Laden. In the refugee neighbourhood of Tel El Sultan near the border with Egypt, children have a choice of hobbies. They can sort scrap metal to earn extra shekels for their parents. Or if that doesn't take their fancy, there are barriers to build against rivers of sewage.
This was the scene of Israel's latest military offensive, known as Operation Rainbow. It was aimed at arresting militants and gathering intelligence on the weapons smuggling tunnels that stretch from Rafah into Egypt, about 2 kilometres away. By the time the Israeli tanks had withdrawn, more than 20 people from this neighbourhood had been killed, including 2 children.
At the start of the Israeli army siege last month, Asma and Ahmed al-Maraya, aged 16 and 13, were shot dead. Saria al-Maraya is now a mother in mourning.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. حاسة بفراغ كبير يعني كتير حاسة بفراغ كبير لما أشوف مكان أسمع وأشوف مكان أحمد حاسة كتير بفراغ أنا.
During a lull in the gunfire, the children went up to the roof. Asma to collect laundry, Ahmed to feed the pigeons.
وبنت عمرها 16 سنة أسمى وأحمد ابني عمره 13 سنة طفل شاف أخته مسكين أجا يجري بده يحكي لنا إنه أسمى اتصاوبت لكن ما قدرش.
Elder brother Ali explains how after the shooting he dragged his sister's body from the roof after wrapping her shattered skull in a towel.
ربطت راسها عشان مخها ما يقعش تاني والعظم وسحبتها سحب ضليت نسحب فيها في المسافة هذه 6 متر 7 متر بيجي قعدت فيها 3 ساعة عشان وانا بسحب فيها.
Rafah's overflowing mortuary had no room for 2 small bodies, so they were taken to a makeshift morgue in a nearby vegetable storeroom.
This is where they were shooting.
The family accuses Israeli snipers of killing the children. The army says its investigation could take months. Saria couldn't even bury her children. The army curfew prevented the family from leaving home.
بالشطر شرون على أطفال أبرياء أحباب الله أسمى أمنية حياتها أسمى إنها تخلص المدرسة وتدخل الجامعة وتتعلم دكتورة أسمى.
Gazans fear before any withdrawal, Israel will try to bring them to their knees. The international community continues to voice concern about house demolitions and the killing of civilians. Prime Minister Sharon is resolute in his desire to leave Gaza, but a long battle of emotions has just begun.
I don't think ultimately that disengagement is the answer. I don't want barbaric neighbours. If anything, it makes me more certain that there is a need for an Israeli presence in Gaza in one form or another. And the more of it, the better. Oh, I sound like an extremist.
ليش أتعاطف معهم؟ لأنهم هم ماخذين بلادنا. يعني إحنا ماخدين وطننا، ماخدين بلادنا اليهود. ليش اتعاطف معهم؟ ما اتعاطفش معهم انا.
The settlers of Gaza may have just one more summer before their government forces them to pull up their roots and leave. For Gazans, Israel's evacuation may bring some relief from hardship. But after years of blood, hatred and broken promises, it's hard to imagine a brighter future.